Hey, hello. I want to plead that you watch this video till the end. If you don't watch till the end, you will misunderstand what I am talking about in this video. Thank you and God bless you. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you doing today? God bless you. So there is an audio video that I want you to hear, and at the end of the video, please, the owner of the story is sincerely asking and seeking for your advice. It is a heartbreaking story, true life story, and I know the person. I know the person in person. Right, so it is not a fiction. It is not maybe that one is trying to create content. So it is a very disturbing story. You know, serious betrayal from the man. This young man loved so much that he could give his life for. But at the end of the day, he was betrayed. Now, though not recently, but many years ago. But it has come to the point where he is now asking some questions and is looking for advice. Now, you can only advise him properly if you listen to the story till the end to know the heart of the story and the ending of the story. That is basically when and how you can give a valid advice. I beg you, don't just type because you want to type when you have not listened to the story of the storyteller. Thank you and God bless you. At the end of the day, it may also help somebody. Now, the reason for this video is that the person is actually seeking for help, counsels. Now, but it is important that we understand that we are not condemning anybody, because every saint has a past and every sinner definitely has a future. Think on that and stay blessed in Jesus' name. God bless you. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Till then, from me to you, shalom. You are welcome to the End Time Truth Television, the channel for the lovers of truth, for the truth of the end time. So if you are a lover of truth, give us a subscription and God bless you. Shalom.
Hello, brother. Good morning. Hello, brother. Good morning. How are you doing? Thank you for everything that you are doing on the internet, even though that some persons may not understand you. But those of us who have gone through the betrayals of some persons we trusted in our lives, even as young people, we would never misunderstand it. And even if and you make mistake, we understand that you are a human and there is the possibility for mistakes. So I have this story that I want to tell you. I want to tell this story because somehow suddenly some things reawakened in me, and things that I have, injuries that I have sustained, wounds that I have sustained, even though that they have healed, but the scar is still there. So I want to tell you this. I am seeking for an advice. I happen to be a young man who gave my life to Jesus early in life. I gave my life to Jesus as a teenager in those days. And I want to say thank God for the gospel that I heard and where God took me, where my salvation took place, because if I was exposed to the kind of gospels that is being preached today, or that people are preaching today, I probably wouldn't have recovered, because along the line, I backslid, and for 1 year, I spent 1 year in the world, but something was alive in me, and that did not allow me to continue. And God's mercy was around me, because I could have lost my life in that 1 year of wandering in the world of darkness. But the Lord showed me mercy and recovered me and saved me again. If I was exposed to the messages of it doesn't matter, just as long as you have accepted Jesus, the Lord will understand. If that was what I was exposed to in those days, I probably would have continued in the life I found myself living. Not really that I wanted to, but because I was powerless at some point, and I was overcome by the desires of the flesh as a young man. So back to my story. I had a boss in those days who happened to be a pastor. My boss was a very nice man. And he still is, because he's still alive. So he had this friend who also was a pastor running a ministry in those days. The two of them attended the Bible college together, but they graduated together, so they became friends. Meanwhile, I gave my life to Christ in the Deeper Life Bible Church. So you can understand my background. So along the line, I decided to join my boss and his friends in the church that they were pioneering in those days. My boss was just an assistant to the general overseer then. So I joined this ministry and I became very committed to the ministry. I was in the choir. I was everything. I was in the youth. I was in the usher. I was in the prayer department. I was visually everywhere and I was enjoying what I was doing. Along the line, I became very important in the ministry with every sense of humility that at my tender age then, whatever the general pastor would travel, I would be the one to man the pulpit and preach until he returns from a journey. So that was how close I became to the pastor and his family. At some point in time, I lived in the pastor's house for some time, not because I was broke, but just because of the trust and the kind of love I developed for the family. So we were like families. I was like a member of the family. And to be sincere with you, out of love, not out of compulsion, I spent a lot of money on the pastor because I happen to be a very generous giver. Even though that one thing happens in the church that when you are giving, everybody notices you and those that are recipients of your benevolence will shout to your face that they love you, but when you have any form of setback, they will be the first people to discard you and to label you something you are not. So in those days, I was spending on the pastor and his family more than I was on my mother, that he didn't ask for pledge meant that I didn't come out. I will always be among, if I was the first, definitely I would be the second or the third person to come out. Just because I loved the church, I loved the ministry, I loved the man, and I wanted to be part of everything that was happening. I was not missing out on my tithe. In fact, I developed the habit of selecting new notes to pay my tithe in those days. So I became very, very close to the pastor. And as days went by, I met a certain sister who I loved, that I wanted to marry. I sought the face of the Lord in prayers and I had every, clearance for me to go after her. And so I met this nun. In fact, everybody in the church then even started calling us husband and wife, though we were not intimately involved, but we were very close. But fast forward to the time I was really ready to get married, things did not work out. I will come back to this story, but let me go straight to what I want to talk about now. So things did not work out. The pastor also, I told you I lived with the family and something happened, which I may not bring out here so that I don't open some wounds. Sorry, I didn't tell you my name. My name is Sunday and I will stop it at here because I don't want to reveal too much, of my person and identity. But I believe that those who are familiar, with my voice may probably decipher, and nobody knows this that I'm telling you now, but I just think I have to let it out. So, the pastor's wife, happened to be someone that I will call a friend, a sister, because of my closeness with the pastor, I was also very close with her, and I loved her to bits as a child of God. Yeah, you love everybody. My love for her then was not born out of any form of sexual immorality. It was just a pure love. And if it was possible, I wouldn't have allowed anything that bothered her to be a problem. That was how it was. And eventually, somebody came from the wife's side to the ministry and so the lady I wanted to marry then started listening to wrong counsel. Even some persons who were very old that were not yet married in those days, this kind of a thing. The girl was still tender and the tender, not that she was 17 years old, at least she was around 22. So at the time I was really, really serious to get married. So she was convinced not to accept my proposals. They told her things anyway that turned her head. So, I was actually hurting because that was, as we used to call it in those days, she was my first love. And I truly loved her. I truly adored her. But I don't know what happened in her mind. So the marriage did not work out. Then somebody came from the family of my then pastor's wife. And, I went to meet the woman and inquired about the lady at that. She told me everything I needed to know about her. So when we got along and eventually we got engaged with the knowledge of the pastor and his wife. The lady was living at the parsonage. Me already I had my house where I was living a bit far away from the church, so we only meet whenever I come I come around the church premises. Now, fast forward to when we did our traditional wedding. Now, but before then, this lady who happened to be my fiancée at that time, anytime I was talking good about this pastor, this my pastor, she would tell me, this man doesn't love you. I said, no, he loves me and I loved him. She would keep quiet. She told me those anytime I spoke in good tone about the man. And of course, because we were going to get married, she knew how much attached I was to the pastor and the family. And I do things for the family, you know. So she will always remind me that this man doesn't love you. I wouldn't know what the case was, but because of the love I have for the man, I didn't want to question her. I didn't want to push her on to tell me why she was saying so, because it might be maybe she overheard him saying something about me that was not good and all that. So, but my mind, I just didn't want anything to happen to the love and affection I had for the man. So I just did push forward. So we had our traditional wedding. After our traditional wedding, that same day of our traditional wedding, now my fiancée, who had become my wife traditionally, now said she had something to tell me. I said, okay. She said, that there was something that happened between herself and the pastor. That was why she had always told me that the man never loved me. She told me how the man forcefully had carnal knowledge of her 2 times in the house. Forcefully. And, at that point in time, it was dicey. She wouldn't know whether to tell her aunt or to tell me. Telling her aunt may scatter the marriage, scatter the family. So she kept it to herself. But then eventually decided to open up to me. I wept, but at the same time, I forgave her, cuddled her, and I told her that wouldn't change anything. She was actually afraid I was going to end the marriage relationship. So maybe she chose that day to tell me, thinking that probably after the traditional wedding, I probably would not take a harsh decision of cancelling out the marriage. I could have anyway, but I chose to go on because I truly loved the woman. And so, that was the day I decided I was going to leave the church. But because of my position in the church, I was handling a department of the church that was very sensitive at that time. If I had left the church, some of the people around me then would be affected, the youth. So, and there was this youth program that we were planning. So we went on with the program. 3 months later, we had the church wedding. Yeah, I was carrying that in my mind, but God helped me. It didn't affect my service in the church. So, but a year later, when the youth program was done and dusted, I'd already written my retirement resignation letter and disengagement letter. So immediately after that Sunday, I can't remember now if it was immediately the same Sunday or next Sunday after that youth program that I went to his office, greeted him, dropped an envelope on his table and I walked away, took my wife home. So, of course, I detailed everything in the letter. And if it was possible for me to have broken my SIM card, I would have broken my SIM card that time, but I did not, though he knew my house. So, and the next day or 3 days after, he drove into the compound where I was living then, and he parked, knocked at the door, came in. And I and my wife were still at the house, so came, broke down in tears, cried like a baby. And kudos to him because some persons may want to deny it or even use that letter, which nobody knew I dropped. They may begin to talk that some persons are possessed by demons, and after everything they have done for them, they are trying to spoil their image. But he didn't do that because I believe he knew if he did that, that would have backfired because I would have eventually opened up the can of worms. But I decided, out of respect and still love for him, even though he betrayed me, he stabbed me in the back. Now, I said I will return to the other issue. Now, I found out something. When I was engaged to the other lady who eventually, went off the marriage, I discovered that he never wanted to see me and the lady together. I thought he was protecting us so that we wouldn't fall into the sin of sexual immorality. One of the days I was going to teach in the house care, and the lady came around in the house. So we went together to the center where I was going to teach the house care. He came back to the house. He didn't see me. Asked of the lady. They told him we went out together. Immediately he drove to the girl's parents' house. Did see us there. Eventually, when I got back home, see how much he lashed at me, talked as though, oh my God, I didn't understand that. So, well, sometimes I'll enter to the office, I will see him carry the girl on his laps, and that one will be like, daddy, daddy, be too. You know, he was our daddy now. My mind never crossed that my own father in the Lord would be the one that would be doing such thing to me. To the persons, of course, was already engaged with. Now, the day that my wife was telling me what happened, she said he told her that does she not know that instead of her, wanting to sleep with me before our marriage engagement, our marriage proper, that whenever she felt like sleeping with a man, she should come to him and he would do it for her. Mind you, maybe he waited and the lady didn't go, so he decided to take it by force from her. So the day that day he came to the house, he cried and wept, rolled on the ground, genuine weeping, genuine crying. I can tell you for sure that it was original. Cried and wept and asked for forgiveness. Okay, I told her, well, I forgive you, and I'm not coming back. He said, no, what will he tell people? That I was so precious in that church. Everybody in that church loved me. Well, let me not say everybody, but I know that a larger percentage of the people in the church at that time loved me because I was very intelligent, I was brilliant, and when I preach, people do get blessed. So, after a long time, I said, okay, we will return. And then he made me promise him I was not going to let his wife know about it. I said, okay, sure, I won't. Then we continued again, and after like 6, 7, 8 months into me returning, I found out that some of the messages I'm preaching were actually targeted towards me. I've not done anything. I've been normal. I've continued doing what I was doing. And eventually there were some rules and laws that were put in place that will negatively impact me because I was coming from a far place. And sometimes we will be caught up in the hold up. No matter how early we left the house in those days, we will still arrive church late. So at least those things were good so that workers could be early enough in church. Then you knew where I was coming from. And as a matter of fact, every other person was living around. I was the only person living a bit farther from the church. So it was like I was the target. So about a year later, I decided to leave the church without announcing to anybody that I left. Well, many brethren from the church came visiting me. I told them, no, I just took a decision. I didn't mention the incident to them, so I left. He himself only called me once, and I said, Father, I am calling you as a father. Return to your father. I said, okay, sir. I dropped the call. He ended the call. I didn't cut the call, but I never went back. But that was also where I learned about intimidation. That every time they will be preaching, if anybody leave the church, you will suffer, you will become poor, and all that. So when I left with my hand and my head held high because I didn't offend anybody. So I didn't see any reason why God will punish me because I left the congregation. Now, that affected the relationship I had with his wife and even some persons around. When people would not understand, they won't understand. But because I made promises to him that I won't let the wife go, I kept the promises. Unfortunately, the man is late now. And eventually, I think it was when I heard of his death that I visited the church and the family for the very first time after leaving the church for many years. Somehow, I've been able to mend my relationship with the wife and the family. But each time I got involved talking with the wife, she held the husband in a very high esteem as a very pious man who never had anything to do with women. And she practically adores the man, even in death. And whenever, there was another day I visited the house and I saw a picture of the man and how it was decorated and Cuban eulogizing the man. I was credited by his side. So my dilemma is, should I tell this woman? Because she still sometimes makes mention of how I left the church that was practically mine, how I left the church. And I left without, in fact, she thought anybody pushed me out, but she never knew what happened. I'm in a dilemma. I just need some form of counsel from your subscribers and viewers. Please, should I tell the woman. The real reason what did I told her that did I would tell you why I left the church? You would know I did it for you because I didn't want to hurt you. She said, okay, but I never let her know. So please, I'm asking. I don't know what your opinion may be, but even if you would give me counsel, I still want to hear from the subscribers, your viewers. What would they tell me? Because somehow, I don't know. Seems I have not completely healed from that incident. I discovered that recently. Should I tell her so that she will understand that I didn't just do it for doing its sake, but I just left so that everybody would have peace? Because in those days, it looked like, it sounded like the man was no longer comfortable with me being around. I don't know if his conscience was dealing with him, so he intentionally put things in place that he knew I would not, be able to stand and cordon, and indirectly he chased me away from the church. But till yesterday, at least, the woman still thinks that I just left the church when I was not supposed to. Please, kindly advise me and let your viewers advise me in the comment area. What should I do? Since the man is no longer alive, so I've respected him and kept the promises I made to him. Now that he is gone and he wouldn't be here, and I hope that he made it. I hoped that he had enough time to make a bet. That is the most important thing. And the Lord forgave him, which was, very important. But should I now tell the woman so that she will understand me and not think that I just in the middle of the road abandoned what I was building? And some of the children, the youths who were very, very attached to be at what we were doing together. Please, I'll be waiting for your response and the opinions of your esteemed regular viewers. Thank you so much as I await your response and that of your viewers. Bye.